Let
What does he have to do with this?
let anything. You know what I'm talking about. Let anything. No, I don't have to say it right now. Don't worry about it. I don't got to say it up here. Let anything happen, and I'm gonna show you and him. Bet.
In shape, 145. In shape. You know what I mean? So this is different from a Crawford coming up to 168, but we know his walk around weight is probably 170, 180.
The fight that I couldn't believe, that was too insane and honestly just baffling to think would be a real fight in 2025, reminds you that combat sports are the craziest sports on the planet.
Chaos erupted at the press conference for the Gervonta Davis versus Jake Paul fight, transforming a routine promo into a heated showdown. Davis lost his cool when asked why he picked Paul over top-ranked fighters, firing back with attitude and raw emotion. Jake, never one to back down, fueled the fire by mocking Davis's personal life and past controversies. The crowd went wild, cameras flashed, and security had to step in as the two fighters nearly went face-to-face in a storm of words and fury.
And truly, when people run back to this press conference, all the shit talk, all the fun, they're going to be like, wow, this kid really is doing something monumental in the sport, and he's actually an insane boxer. And I'm going to show that this guy who's been doing it his whole life has been doing it wrong his whole life.
What'd you say, Tank?
He said he's gonna outbox me. Whoop-de-doo.
The one thing, when you have a fight of this magnitude, especially with Jake, because his appeal has been global. For you, Tank, do you think this is one of those fights where now all of a sudden you can show your boxing skills on a global scale to maybe people who weren't interested in boxing? All of a sudden they say, well, who is this guy?
Yeah, it's actually like, now that I'm looking at it now, it's just like, I don't know, probably.
From the very start, the face-off between Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul was anything but friendly. Standing tall at 6 feet 1 inch, Jake towered over Davis's 5 feet 5 inches frame, perfectly illustrating the massive size difference that's been a hot topic leading up to their fight. Paul didn't waste a second using that height and reach advantage as ammunition, confidently claiming he'd dominate by keeping Tank at a distance with his superior length and physicality. But Davis, a seasoned lightweight champion used to overcoming taller foes, fired back with intensity, vowing that his lightning-fast speed, timing, and explosiveness would erase any physical edge Jake thinks he has. The tension in the room was electric, Paul smirking like he already had the upper hand, while Davis glared with that deadly calm that's become his trademark. When these two finally step into the ring, it won't just be a clash of styles. It'll be a test of pride, power, and heart. One of the biggest talking points surrounding this fight is the massive size gap between Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul. Fans and media personalities have been quick to call the matchup unfair, some even branding it a circus act before the fighters ever touched gloves. Davis, the undefeated lightweight champion known for dismantling elite opponents, is stepping up against a social media star-turned-boxer who naturally fights in much heavier divisions. To add more controversy, the bout has been labeled an exhibition rather than a sanctioned title fight, fueling debates over its credibility and true competitive value.
The fight. But yeah, that was that. This time, Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. Tank Davis, he was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. Charges were later dropped, to be fair to him. But yeah, that was when he was last in the news. I mean, what is interesting is just a couple of months ago, Tank Davis was saying openly that he'd lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire as he was experiencing extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over him. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight, by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 pounds when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly, 6'1", 2. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best. So, you know, there's a height disparity there of some 8 inches. And once again, this is Jake Paul showing total disrespect to boxing, in my opinion. Once again, continue to pimp out the sport for his own financial ends. And worse still, powers that be in boxing, allowing him to get away with it and facilitating this utter bullshit. And meanwhile, what's even worse about this is that meanwhile, the WBA lightweight title that Tank Davis should be defending against Lamont Roach in a rematch. I mean, they fought back.
It's no secret that Jake Paul lives for drama and spectacle, and this press conference was tailor-made for viral chaos. From his over-the-top clown antics to the taunting, shoves, and pointed jabs about legal issues, every move felt scripted for attention. The scene quickly drifted away from professionalism and turned into a full-blown circus, more like a heated reality show than a boxing event. Reporters described the presser as all noise, no meaning, packed with sound and fury but lacking genuine substance, proving once again that with Jake Paul, hype always overshadows the sport itself.
Seen that Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, you know, trying to push toward his goal of you know, ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So it's kind of a weird place to be because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight, like, okay, that's a real fight, or that's a real fight. He'll go and he'll win the fight. You know, Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever, but Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily and then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love. And you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua, and that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, that's fucking crazy. What are you doing? Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk, but a lot of people were like, okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him. He's a psycho, but fair play. And then you announce this one, and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years, so it's a weird spot to be in for him for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice, and I don't think it was, because Coppinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks, and they were pretty public, from Eddie Hearn, from Jake. Nakisa Badarian, Jake's manager, was over in the UK on, I think, Sky Sports, talking about the fight and saying how it was a real possibility.
The clash between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis has become one of the most polarizing matchups in modern boxing, a lightning rod for controversy that's splitting fans, fighters, and analysts down the middle. Critics argue it's a money-driven circus act that mocks the essence of the sport, pointing to the glaring weight difference between Paul, who fights around 200 pounds, and Davis, a 135-pound powerhouse. They see it as a desperate spectacle where fame outweighs skill and entertainment overshadows legacy. Others, however, believe Davis is simply cashing in smartly, turning the hype machine in his favor and proving that boxing in today's era is as much about brand and business as belts and rankings. Jake Paul, to his credit, has dragged new audiences into the sport and mastered the art of controversy, but purists insist that legitimacy can only come from facing real, ranked opponents. The debate rages on. Is this fight the future of boxing or the downfall of its soul? One thing's certain, whether you love it or hate it, Everyone will be watching when these two step into the ring. So what do you think? Does this matchup elevate the game or expose its flaws? Drop your thoughts below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to smash that like button, share this video with your fight fam, and subscribe to stay locked in with NBA Pulse for more explosive boxing updates, heated rivalries, and all the chaos the fight world has to offer.